and you can't find the joy in the process of becoming that, then you're losing your life. You're like actually missing out on life. So, and people don't realize that it's not just with their health goals that this happens. This is with everything. Like, it has to stop. Like, that's the thing that has to stop.
Hey guys, welcome again to another episode of our 2021 Founders and Shakers show, where we interview founders, leaders, and shakers that are committed to literally shaking the world. My name is Jeffrey, founder of HumanityShield's, and today our special guest is the founder of Praxis. She's a registered dietitian nutritionist, and she is also a nutrition and well-being success coach. She's been doing it for over 12 years. 12 years of experience. That's amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Cristina Fernandes. Hi, Cristina.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. Thank you as well. So, Cristina, tell us your story and how you became a registered dietitian nutritionist.
I really love that question because I actually hadn't given it much thought until it was like late in my university career, where one of my classmates had asked me, like, where did your journey start? And I never really thought about how early it started until she asked me that, which is kind of nice because it started at a really, really young age for me. It was just kind of innate and ingrained in me. I mean, so much so, like in elementary school, I was doing like walking plans and like doing swap outs for our nutrition, like our meals, like our lunches and stuff, for a specific boy that was asking for my help to help. It's kind of cool knowing that that there's this purpose within us, and that sometimes it happens at a very, very young age, and you just need to kind of listen to it. So, but you know, it's funny because in university, when I was looking for a university, I didn't even know the career as a registered dietitian even existed. So we were a pretty new designation. So, right. I mean, I knew that I wanted to get into health, and I didn't know that, doctor medical was the way that I was meant to go, because I really looked more of that holistic approach. And I've always been that way. And so I didn't know. So I went into the program of health sciences. And again, I swear the universe is crazy. It wasn't until I was in my dorm so we have our meal cards. I don't know, Jeff, were you ever in a residence?
No.
Okay, so those of you who will understand, like, you have this meal card, right? So then you go to the cafeteria and get your meals. But I would just bring my own food and keep it in the fridge. I'd still get meals from the cafeteria, but I would have the stinky food all the time. Like, I'd boil my eggs in like an electric kettle, and I'd have my boiled eggs and my salmon and canned tuna and all that stuff.
Wow.
And so the SOF from my floor said, "Oh, Cristina, you must be in the nutrition program." And I'm like, hold the phone. What do you mean nutrition program? I didn't know there was such thing as this nutrition program, because at the University of Western, the nutrition program was actually in an affiliated college, like on this top of this magical hill somewhere. And so it wasn't part of the catalog. I had no idea about this program. So he actually drove me to Brescia, and I ended up going into this program that then allowed me, so an introductory nutrition class that allowed me to the next year do the nutritional sciences program. And so I ended up doing both. I did the health sciences and the nutritional sciences concurrently, and I finished both my degrees that way.
Wow.
Oh, thank you. But no, it was, it's interesting because, and then as the nutritional sciences program, I actually ended up being a professional home economist. And I don't know if that's a word that I kind of threw out. We never spoke about that before. But so, which kind of, it really shaped the way I practice now, I think. Because as a professional home economist, or PHEC, what the heck is a PHEC? It's really the science of living. And so it encompasses the facet of health and healthcare, but also finances and business and home, like balancing home, domestic requirements, and even environmental responsibility. So it really aligns. I'm getting goosebumps because it aligns with me so much. But I really love how it's shaped how I practice within my dietetic practice, because it encompasses all of those things. That's the science of living smart, and not just focused on, because as we'll probably talk about later, it's never just about the food, right? And if we're feeling unbalanced with our relationships, we're feeling unbalanced in our home responsibilities, if we're feeling like we're not being successful with what we want to be achieving in other areas of our life, what's the first thing to go? You take one guess. I want you to guess. What's the first thing that we put on our priority list? What's like the first thing that ends up going? One of the first things.
I think I can think of two things. One is probably like healthy food or healthy living or exercising.
Yes,
Really.
exactly. So it's like, because we can get food, right? We can get it very quickly in all sorts of areas, and not moving our body often feels like gives us more time, right? We can buy time by not going for a walk. So those are usually the first things to go. And it's often because we're taking care of ourselves too. That's a whole other topic, I guess, because often find when I have clients who have just like lost a dog or something, it's like, I don't know what it is. I can't go for my walks. Well, you always made it a priority when you had Ruffy, right? Like you would always go out for your walk consistently because it was for somebody else or something else. So it's interesting that that's the first thing to go. So I really love how it's kind of shaped. And I never really noticed that before, but it's really shaped how I practice and the difference in how I practice, I think, being able to see the whole person and the whole circumstances of individuals when we're creating a plan for success. So after university, I went into my clinical internship at London Health Sciences Centre. Fortunate enough to have a position for me in long-term care, and I simultaneously got into the diabetes world. I became a CDE, or certified diabetes educator, and so a lot of like disease management, right? Like a lot of chronic disease. I dabbled into some recipe development, did a few TV media gigs, doing some nutritional commentary here and there as well, which is fun. But a lot of chronic disease in my clinical role, insulin adjustments, sending medication recommendations to the primary healthcare providers, and pattern management or behavior change. That's really where like the focus was. And I always felt the drive to be able to help people sooner. I mean, it's hard to answer like who are the people that you're meant to serve, like when I think of that, because as my journey progressed, I'm like, who am I supposed to be serving? Because people would come in and like I'd get lit up when I had people who came in wanting like, hey, I was diagnosed with diabetes and I really want to do this without medication. I want to do this without insulin, or I want to, delay that as much as possible. What can I do? And that lit me up, which is the difference between private practice and, being in a center where clients are referred to you and sometimes arms crossed, right? So that was a big difference. And although that lit me up and it makes you feel good as a provider, practitioner, I also really loved the challenge and the gratification that I got after having somebody who did come in like with arms crossed and being like, I don't know why I'm here, actually. Like my doctor said I had to be here, but said something about diabetes and I don't really think I have diabetes, and kind of in denial. And being able to like turn that around and create that at least ambivalence, and then even the desire to do more for themselves because they understand that they can. Right? Because there's almost like this wall that people get where they feel like the hope is gone. And so what's the point? It's almost like this defense mechanism. And you get all this overwhelm. And, aside from any guilt or shame that you feel when that's placed on you when we're not doing the things we feel like we should be doing, It's like this defense mechanism that's so intriguing for people. But once you break through that and they have that breakthrough and they understand, wait a second, I have control over this and I can change the outcome. That felt so good. That felt so good for that. So there was quite a contrast there from private practice and working, through the diabetes education program. But since then, like, just kind of, and even throughout that, just immersed myself in anything I could in the area of like motivational interviewing and speaking. And that's a success strategy. That's really been something that has been a pull. Like, I've always loved like how to get them sooner, how to help people sooner so that they don't get in there, but also helping people out of that stuck. So often we have that stuck, right? So just kind of like helping people with optimal energy and body image and vitality. That's really where I just shine. So I have a tremendous respect for the power of food and positive movement and congenial state of mind, and gut health in particular is something that I really focus on. Eating to support the immune system and combat inflammation. So to, going more to help people in which ends up being in all areas of their life.
Well, that's awesome. I think that's a great story that you have there. So just thinking from the public sector to doing it yourself or doing it privately, what made you decide to do that, and tell us more about that?
That's a good question. I mean, there's a few parts to that, but without like keeping us here for like too long, I think, and I'm so grateful. Like, I'm so grateful for my journey, my career, all of the expertise I've learned, all my colleagues and everything, all the experiences that I've been able to get. Absolutely. But I just think there was a point in my career that I felt like I needed to give more to my clients, and my own self-expression, I think, is what it was. So without all of the constraints of someone else's ideas and that sort of thing. And you know what, ultimately it also got to the point where I needed some more balance in my own life too, especially with, my babies coming along. And even though, Jeff, as you know, when you love what you do, you're not working a day in your life, right? But I needed more of those 24 hours. Like, we only have 24 hours in a day, and I needed more to be like, to be a mama and a wife and all of the other initiatives that are close to my heart as well. But also being able to give that time to my clients that I feel that they deserved as well. Whereas working, in the public sector, often we have those time constraints they're just it's such a small window, and we can't go too much far beyond what we're doing with the client when they're in front of us, basically. So I really, you know what, it just kind of happened, and the universe kind of swept in and offered me some opportunities that allowed me to get out of that like 9-to-5 stuck, but still providing that space and the grace to start building my private practice on my own terms, without the negative pressures we often get, with starting up a new business, that I know that you appreciate as well. Oh, so things started unfolding really beautifully. And again, like God or the universe or whatever it is to you, really set me up with a tremendous group of professionals, and at Aligned Health, which is right up at Conestoga Mall in Waterloo. So we're able to really have that space and capacity to collaborate our gifts of service. We can see more, you can see more info on that on the website. We can hook you up with that and stuff as well. But it's really nice to be able to do that and still be able to operate on my own terms and have my private practice. So it's great. So, and to current day, where I'm finally breaking out in this branding of the idea of Praxis, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about, and being able to, working on that. I've been working on it in the background for quite some time, so it's really exciting to be able to get it up into the world now, finally.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that. And later we're gonna invite people to that new gig that you're doing, or the new branding. So it's interesting that you mentioned in your story that you have so many different backgrounds, different experience. When you went to your school and then found out something else about nutrition, and going to take, and this took you to a journey, and then you discovered the diabetes education program, which is more um, disease management as opposed to preventative, or is that right? Preventative?
Preventative.
Yeah,
We do have people like at risk as well, of course. Like anyone who's at risk can also be seen as
right,
well. Yeah.
right. And it looks like this, even, sorry, even when you were younger, it seems like this has always been your passion. So I can kind of like stitch that together. And I do see that you have a special gift. Now, a lot of people have. And so you see things differently when it comes to nutrition. It's not just one thing, but when you
Right.
look at that thing, it's actually connected to other things. And so I believe that there's a trifecta for everything. And when you're trying to solve something, there's a trifecta. So what do you think is the trifecta when it comes to someone trying to have a better healthy life or healthy lifestyle?
Oh, wow. I think like, we all hear that it's 80% nutrition and 20% physical activity, and it's something that I think we use, and it's true. It is absolutely true. But and now I think more and more we're starting to realize the power of mindset and mind growth, and I like to say mind state. Um, and so although it is kind of, you can't out train a poor diet and all of that stuff, absolutely. So like it's still, it's still valid, the 80-20, 80 nutrition, 20% physical activity, but then it's like 100% mind state. So when we talk about like the 80% nutrition, 20% physical activity, that's the mechanical part. And so when we're thinking of any sort of change for anything and anything we're going for, it's going to be 80% mindset or mind state, and 20% mechanical. So it's really only the 80-20 of the food and nutrition, and the physical activity is only 20% of that whole picture.
Right.
And so, which is something that I'm grateful for, because that's a passion of mine, is really getting into that mind state. Because like oh my gosh, you could be doing all of the right things, and if you deep down feel like you can't do it, or you can do it for a while, but then something's going to happen again. And we see the yo-yos, right? The yo-yo happening. Or what, because anybody can do something for about 30 days.
Short term.
And actually, we know people can do things for about 6 months now. We know that. But after that, if it's not habitual, if it is not part of your flow in life, then we will always go back to what we know. And so it needs to be, and it's not a matter of just starting new things, it's also unlearning things too along the way. And so I really love, like when you say trifecta, of course there's the nutrition, there's the physical activity, and there's the mind state. But I think that ultimately you have to have the balance, you have to have the joy in there. Like you have to be able to enjoy it. Otherwise, or at least know like that you're doing it and you enjoy the outcome so much. So for instance, I don't really care to do dishes. Actually, I don't mind it, because that's a lot of like, sometimes I get to, listen to an audiobook or something and I have some like kiddo free, just, in my own zone time. So I tend to find great joy in just about any of the things in life. But what I'm saying is not everybody likes to do the dishes, but everybody likes a clean counter, right? Everybody likes to have, germs put away and all of that stuff. And so I think that it either has to be you really enjoy what you're doing, or you really enjoy what you're getting out of what you're doing, one or the other. And if neither one of those are appreciated along the way, they're going to get lost there. Wow. So you won't follow it.
Well, I think more people should hear your message, because I feel like, there's so many people, especially New Year's Eve, or, January 1st, the second week, everyone's getting into the New Year's resolution. And then, when after February, March, there's no more New Year's resolution. Nobody else talk about it anymore. So, but then
Absolutely. And
I
Jeff,
guess,
that comes from that all or nothing mindset that we all have. We
right,
want instant gratification. We want, and that's the thing. And that's the thing with Praxis, is that there's never you don't ever arrive. And that's something that people need. Once you understand and appreciate the fact that you never arrive, and I'm going to use a really general example here of weight release, right? So I use the term weight release instead of weight loss, because if it's an undesired weight, then you're not necessarily looking for it to come back. So we just released it. But
that's good.
So let's say 20 pounds, right? That's my goal. That's the end goal is the 20 pounds. But as you're working with a client and they're moving towards that 20 pounds, is it still 20 pounds, or do you need to lose more than that? Do you need to release more than that to be content? And it just, there's never any arrival. And even with fitness,
right.
the fittest of the fittest, they're still going to be challenging their body and going for something,
100%.
right? They're going for something, or they're atrophying. So we're always just, and it's not about being the best and being better. It's not about that. It's about being your best self in the circumstances that you're in right now. And your best self today might not be as good as your best self yesterday because of the circumstances that were handed to you today. But when you're able to live your life knowing that you are doing your best, and you have the tools, and you have the know-how and the skills to be able to do that, then now you're not feeling like you have all these shoulds and coulds and just kind of hovering over you and feeling all this guilt of not living the way that you feel you want to be living. Because you're doing it. You know that you're doing it. You have the trust that you're doing it, and you know that it's unfolding the way it should.
100%. I believe that because way back then, I decided to run a marathon, and training for a marathon. I'm sure you're very active. I don't know if you've ever run before. Do you run sometimes?
I do.
Okay.
I used to run. I used to do 5Ks just before I was getting into more running, and I was up to 5K runs.
And that's
before the kiddos.
Before they arrive. Yeah, and that's any distance, right? I think that as I was training for my marathon, something changed for me. At the end, I realized that there will never be a finish line for a runner. Because you've got your time. You're always going to be a runner, because you always run, right? Just like what you're saying, just being that person to not just lose weight, but actually becoming that healthier version of you. Yeah, is a big difference.
And if you're waiting to be that runner, right? If you're and you can't find the joy in the process of becoming that, then you're losing your life. You're actually missing out on life. So, and people don't realize that it's not just with their health goals that this happens. This is with everything, that they have their mind set on something. They feel until then, I'll be happy when.
Right.
I'll be able to do this when. And it has to stop. That's the thing that has to stop.
I like what you're doing there, because it looks like you have a movement going on there, and I think you should keep continuing what you're doing. Yesterday I had the interview with another guest speaker, and she's about love. She said that there's the wrong advertisement that we've been listening to, or wrong story that we've been accepting all this time, that you should seek love, look for love, or pursue love. And she said, that you shouldn't do that, because you are love.
Yeah.
It's not outside you.
Start giving it. It'll start flowing back and forth, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love that.
Exactly. So, Cristina, thank you so much for all the advice that you gave us and the motivation. We felt it. It's so amazing. I
Thank
feel
you.
like the audience also enjoying this. If people want to get a hold of you or know more about Praxis and your programs, how can they reach you?
So yes, so you can find me on social. I'm on Instagram. I've got the website coming out. My Instagram handle is praxis.with.chris. My Twitter account is Chris Praxis, sorry. And the Facebook page is Praxis with Chris. And I've got a Praxis website coming out, but there's also a landing page for the program that I have, the virtual group program, which I'm so stoked about. And so that is at www.chrisrd.com. That is Chris without an H. And yeah, so I'll keep people updated through social for the website that's coming out as well for Praxis. And then you can find me and book through the landing page there, and also at the Aligned Health website as well.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Cristina. Really appreciate you.
Oh,
really
what a pleasure. What an honor to be invited into this community. I love it. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you so much as well. Pleasure. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.